welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Bottom of the Bill. We got our boy Al Reshard on today. Thanks for being on here today, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. All right, before we start, we always do the obligatory cheers.
Al didn't want nothing.
Al wasn't feeling like drinking today, so we're going to do this one without you, bro.
Okay. Just want to make sure I don't slur my words. So.
Yeah, I feel you.
No, we slur our words.
We're slurs here. All right, so before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Spliffs over in downtown, Wicked Barley Brewery, who actually gave us some beer to be drinking today. So thank you for that, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. You're the best.
Brews over in Riverside, Harleston Scotch, great Scotch company based here in Florida. Sidecar Jack's, who actually hooked us up with Harleston Scotch. So that was pretty cool. And then Captain Jack's Smokehouse up in Fernandina, some of the best barbecue you will ever have. So definitely check that out. And then Side Hustle has a couple dates coming up, the Monster Mash Festival on Halloween, and then our dinner and a show at 1904 on November 21st. We have another one I don't know if I can say it yet, but so I'll hold off on that. And then I have some solo dates, Captain Jack's Smokehouse on October 9th, and then I'm playing at Jack Rabbit's on October 13th, so make sure you get your tickets for that. And then, yeah, Bill, you got anything you want to plug?
Greenhouse Lounge is back, and we're gonna be playing a show Halloween. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but it's gonna be. I'm sorry, not Halloween. October 30th. Thank you. Sorry,
okay, I was about to say, wow.
So that'll be at 1904, but
sweet.
Look out for that too. What about you, Al? You got any shows coming up?
Nothing coming up. Just trying to finish up this the CD, and when you're kind of doing it yourself, you have the marketing and the whole bit. So. That's a lot of work in itself. Yeah, I
definitely want to ask you all about that. I'm super interested in what your strategy to get it out to market is, and just what the process has been like. But before we get to all that, I kind of wanted to go back a little bit further and just kind of see how you got your start playing. And are you from Jacksonville?
No, I'm actually from New York.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually my sister is a musician, in the family. And she went to the LaGuardia High School of Music and Art.
Okay.
And, I would go with her, and they would have, of course, like, they do at DA, have their concerts and the whole bit. And I would go with her, kind of protection and the whole bit, So one day I went there, and I saw Al McDowell playing. And, he was doing the thumb thing or whatever, and I'm like, I want to do that. That started it. So, fortunately for me, her boyfriend was also going to the school. He was a bass player. And you just had a plethora of talent there. You have Omar Keene was going there at the time.
Wow.
You had Marcus Miller, went there. So I just got to see these guys, when they were, like, just kind of budding.
That's awesome. Wow, man. That must have been a great experience to see him. Especially like Marcus Miller. He's like one of my favorite bass players of all time. So it must have been great to see him at such a young age. And
that's my guy. That's my blueprint.
Yeah.
As I call him.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So what brought you to Jacksonville?
My main job is I write software. So at the time I was working for Merrill Lynch.
Okay.
And Merrill Lynch decided to move down here.
Yeah.
So I said, why not? And the rest is history. Been here for like 30 years now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So did you get your start like playing around in bands in Jacksonville?
Actually, let me back up. So I, started playing, and I had different guys show me things. I'm not formally trained at all or whatever, just kind of sitting.
Really?
And that's kind of like one of the things with a church. You have these guys, amazing musicians, and then the young cats sit up under them. And then, you learn, and then when you get good enough, then, they promote you and let you, play here and there or whatever. So I started doing different church things, right, and kind of honed my, my skill and the whole bit. And then I joined the band, One to One, led by Jeffrey Robeson, some amazing vocalists, organist, keyboardist, but in the gospel genre.
Okay.
But we were kind of like in between gospel and kind of R&B type thing or whatever, and just great musicians in that band. I learned a whole lot. I was a young pup.
Yeah.
So when I moved here, again, I made a transition pretty quickly into the gospel scene, right? And Luke Shumpert, he had a group called One Accord, and he brought me in to play for them. And I just met, different people, and one of the guys I met was Eric Carter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right.
Eric, yeah.
So then he was playing with this band called Slip Mickey, and that was led by Tim Starr, and their bass player was vacating, so he said, "Hey, come on in, join the band." So then that's when I started doing the club circuit, back in the day, with Slip Mickey, and that's kind of where I got my start.
That's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm. So that was that like an original project, or was that like you guys doing covers and?
All covers.
All covers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more of a party band, a jam band,
gotcha.
type of thing or whatever. But the cool thing about that is a lot of the players we had in the band were jazz cats.
Right.
And actually, let me back up, because there's another band before that called Leofall.
Okay. What was it called?
Leofall.
Leofall.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like a rock in Ireland, something like that. I forget the meaning.
Gotcha.
But a couple of guys, Brian Keel, Bob Butterly, Roger Strong, and Justin Varnes. Great musician, and Justin's in Atlanta now. He's doing jazz. Great drummer. And so he kind of got me into that band, right? And I started playing with him a lot. And the cool thing about that was, like I said, I'm not formally trained, and he would pick me up to go to the gig. And he was studying, jazz at one of the colleges. And he would just grill me, what's this? How many sharps in this? How many flats in this key? And
right.
It was hilarious. And he's the one that introduced me to Victor Wooten.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
It's always interesting being the person in the room who doesn't have any kind of formal education in the music realm, because
you're the same way.
I'm the same way.
Oh, okay.
And I was always, when I started kind of getting involved playing, starting my own bands, I was surrounded by guys that went to school, and what a workout that is.
It is.
It's great, but it's also some of those humbling moments you'll have.
Oh my God!
There's no punches pulled.
No.
If you don't know your shit, they let you know, and it's not acceptable to them.
Yeah, I got laughed at on stage, a couple of times,
Yeah.
right? And these guys, they can blow. I mean, these UNF cats. I mean, I'm playing with guys like Scott Rademacher, John Ricci, Eric Ream, all these cats, and they can really blow. And they toss a solo over to me, and I'm like, dun, 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 dun. I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
If I'm not, plucking and popping, I'm like, okay, I'm lost, and I'm like, you have to make a decision. Either you're gonna live with this, or you're gonna figure it out and never let this happen again.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, we were talking about that another podcast ago, where you kind of need to fail on stage, just so not only do you know that it's it's not the end of the world, but also I don't ever want to feel that way. So I gotta practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a wild dynamic, man, for sure. So what was the first creative project you got involved in where you were writing and?
It was more of a executive production, a producer,
Okay.
And that was with my son, when he started recording his first project with Tony Royster, Bob Menser, and I think at the time Frank Cleveland was, producing that,
Okay.
I was just putting the money into the, the whole thing or whatever. So that was my first experience, on that level.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And what was the one-to-one project?
The one-to-one project, that was back in New York again. That was with Jeffrey Roberson, Zach Robertson, Eddie Jones, and my sister. She sings too, so she was the vocalist in the band as well, Gail Roberson. And that was more of an R&B type thing. And I laugh today because everything's digital now, right? But you had the 2-inch, and you had to know the song back then. You go in, go, because you just play the whole song. There's no, cutting and pasting or whatever. You can, but it was
very hard,
a long, a time-consuming process or whatever. So that was and you see that. I'm funny that way. When I see that red light comes on, or come on, I get what we call Frankfurter fingers. All of a sudden, everything, the things I do all the time. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and you do it 100 times, and you see that red light, and all of a sudden.
Changes
You're tripping
everything.
over your fingers, so that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So that was my first recording project,
Okay.
And I didn't record really anymore until I formed the Segway group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we go on to Segway, what was the experience like working in the studio with your family and on the one-to-one project? What was that experience like?
It was really cool. I mean, we had played together for so long till we knew each other, and They had a work ethic, the songs were rehearsed, so when we went in the studio, it was like boom, 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 Yeah, nice and easy, I had no real complaints. We had no problems, we just went in there and did it and knocked it out, and that was pretty much it.
Do you guys find that when you listen back to stuff, like they're like I know when we're in the studio, we always listen back to things that we thought were really well rehearsed, and catching like these little things like where we didn't realize that the kick and the bass weren't lining up on certain parts, and just little things like that. Did you guys come into that at all?
Not that I can remember.
Wow.
I mean, and there's philosophy too. I've been reading up and kind of like studying, different bass players and what they say about different things, or musicians, period. And it's like there's the live performance, and then there is the studio performance. So you want to do what's good for the record.
Right.
Not I want to show my chops and play the slick or whatever.
Sure.
What's good for the song, and you play that, and that's what we try to stick to. Recording's a funny thing too. It's you're trying to capture a performance. Sometimes you do a take and the notes are right, but the other take felt better.
Yeah.
So you have to make a decision. What's right for the song, and that comes down to the editing and the mixing and that sort of thing or whatever.
Right.
So that's just my philosophy to this day.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing it all in one take though, that's
A lot of pressure.
I don't think any bands had to do that in like at least 20 years.
Yeah.
10 years maybe, I'd say. Not 20.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, it's funny because like now, people will send me stuff, to put a bass line on it or whatever, and I'm sitting there playing and watching Law and Order, and I mess up and just go back, put the the little tick marks. Okay, I'll play that part over, and keep moving.
Yeah.
But you think that makes music better though? Because it's perfect, right?
Sometimes it's I still try to keep that whole thing about the performance.
Yeah, the feel.
The feel, it has to feel good. If I can't bob my head to it or whatever, or it doesn't incite emotion in me, then I'm like, it's not the right take.
Right.
That's why I like listening to live shows so much. I don't know what it is. It's not even like obviously they're gonna mess up at some. There's such a thing as a perfect show, but compare that to an album, you're like, there's something else, some other element in it that I'm just like, I just like that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing, you can't put your finger on it, or you would sell it at Walmart, right? But it's just a thing. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it feels good, and that's it. It's like the notes are just part of the thing, and the feel is another part of the thing. Silence is a part of the song too, whatever.
Totally, yeah, man.
Not playing, sitting out, just like, and then sometimes the funny thing is you'll make a mistake, right, that you think, and you go back and listen, and I'm like, that's cool, leave it.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, man. On our first record, our bass player Sean, there was a section where him and the drummer were kind of going back and forth on like a little, I wouldn't call them solos, but it was definitely highlighting more of them. And he played this riff that he's never played before live, and it completely in his mind botched it. And I'm on the other side of that. I'm like, that was magical. Whatever the fuck that was so nasty. He was like, that sounded terrible. I was like, no, man, listen back. That's like, you don't even get a say in this. We're keeping it. It's like shit like that just happens sometimes, man.
Or vice versa. It's something you play and you hate, but everybody else loves it. Like you said, and it's like I cringe when I hear it, but that's it's not my project, so.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a weird place, man. Studios like this. There's a magic to the live performances as well, which I'm a great appreciator of, but to me the studio is like a different realm of existence. That just anything and everything is possible, know. So, speaking of records, was there something that you like growing up? Was there anything that you like a record or an artist that really kind of made you realize like this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it started with Larry Graham.
Okay.
Right? And that was just like, okay, I lost my mind. And there are a few players that I kind of lost my mind over. So he was the first, and I had to learn how to, do all of that stuff. Another guy, Nathaniel Phillips, a lot of people don't know about him. He played with Pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think his most famous tune was Glide. I mean, that bass line was just amazing. Then after that, it was Marcus. After Marcus, it was John Patitucci.
Okay.
And after that, Victor Wooten. And so, and of course, the usual suspects like the Jocos and the Stanleys, and,
Of course, yeah.
those things. But yeah, those guys were my main influences
And that's just from an early age you were into them?
from an early age. And then later on, just watching Patitucci, and trying to understand what he, was doing or whatever. Or, the thing is, you hear somebody that influences you or whatever, you want to find out where did they get it from.
Right.
And so he always talked about horn players and again, Justin Vaughn talked about this with me too. It's like transcriptions, not just the written, but orally too.
Right.
You listen to it, play it back or whatever, and then kind of figure out and see what works for you. Because at the end of the day, I don't care how much theory you have, it comes down to your ear, So the theory just kind of gives you the roadmap to kind of understand how it fits in harmony and that whole thing or whatever. But once, I think Coltrane said it: learn it and forget it.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's it, and then just play.
Yep. Every jazz guy, every jazz musician that I know that's been doing it for a long time, specifically the schooled guys, they all say the same exact thing. It's like, learn all of it and then just forget it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, music theory is a great tool, and I've had to learn quite a bit of it in working with the people that I've worked with over the years. But I mean, if you don't learn how to operate without using it, which means basically just using your ear to learn things and to hear concepts and ideas, then it can be very limiting. If it's like it's like, hey, well, theoretically this makes sense, we're just going to do that. It's like, I don't know, maybe we can take it somewhere else though.
Yeah, and one of the most important things to me is the first guy that started teaching me, David Ennis. He said, if you can sing it, you can play it. Right? So singing, even if you don't have a great voice, and Patitucci talks about this too, sing it, before you go pick up your instrument, listen to the song and then sing your solo. Then pick up instrument,
Right.
Try to do that
right.
way.
Yeah. And or like O'Teal, do it at the same time.
Right, yeah.
I'm not that talented, so.
Our bass player, Sean's a big O'Teal
It's pretty amazing
fan.
seeing somebody who can do that.
Yeah, he does it. He doesn't. Sean doesn't do all the jazzy stuff, but he does. That kind of like scatting over the solo and stuff. It's really he does a great job with it though, for sure. Yeah, O'Teal's an animal though.
Yeah,
he's like playing through all the scales and like singing it at the same time, and
Jeez.
it's wild. So what drew you to jazz? Was it like stuff that you grew up just hearing around the house, or?
Well, that's a funny question, because I didn't really like jazz. I'm like, it just didn't appeal to me. Until I wasn't mature enough musically to understand what was going on.
Right.
And then it wasn't until really, I started listening to John Patitucci, and he said horn players. Got to check out horn players. And then I started digging the whole sidestepping thing. Enclosure, and learn these concepts, and again being on these gigs with these great horn players like John Ricci, J.U. director, whatever. He just played us amazing stuff, and in between sets, I'm like, what is that? What? Explain that to me. Scott Rademacher, the same thing. Explain that to me. What was that? Oh, this is just based on this or whatever, and I understand it. And I had to go home and sit. When you don't really understand, you have to sit note by note. And then, what they said, if they said a melodic minor, right? So how does this fit melodic minor or whatever? Okay, then you have to play a chord or whatever and say, oh, that's how that fits in there.
Right.
So it doesn't become a theoretical thing. Well, it does, but now you're not thinking about it because it's in your ear.
Exactly. Yeah, like a eureka moment, sorry, that's hard to say.
Yeah, exactly, and then another part, too, is getting it under your fingers.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to play Got a Match for years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite the mountain to climb.
Oh, man, it's like...
But yeah, man, I mean, that's always my biggest issue is like my ears definitely work quicker than my hands do. I can say that much right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I get all like I've listened. I mean, I listen to a lot of jazz, and a lot of the ideas that come to me in the moment are based on that stuff. And it's like then my brain's just like, what are you doing? You don't know how to do this yet. Just stop thinking that way at the moment, and then go home, shed, and then it'll come out.
Yeah.
That's like, but yeah.
And I'm not a big swing guy, but bebop.
Yeah.
That's just, Sonny Stitt, who else?
Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker.
I mean that's always been. I mean Coltrane too.
Coltrane.
That's always been my Achilles heel because I can't play that fast. Like those guys, that's like 200 BPM swing. They're just like just effortlessly just playing through shit, and you're just like, this is wild.
But here's the thing, and it's funny you should say. It's like Miles got me off that whole thing, that speed thing, and whatever. Yes, it's cool to play fast, and it's actually easy to play fast because everything's moving and you can't capture everything. It's harder to play slow.
Yeah.
So when Miles came out with Kind of Blue, and something like Freddie the Freeloader or whatever, he's playing a slow blues solo, and that's how I learned how to solo over blues.
Gotcha.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yep.
dun, 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 and then once you get that, like, oh, okay, so you don't realize that at the time, but mentally you're putting these blocks together.
Yeah, totally. And a really cool rule of thumb is like taking the head from those tunes and building concepts off of that.
Exactly.
Rhythmically and melodically, you can even change up the notes if you want to, and just rhythmically play the same thing.
And that's it. And it's like Pat just said, it's a motif.
Right.
So you start with a theme, a little motif thing, and then expand on it, and expand on it, expand on it. And one of the funniest things, Eric Carter, a lot of stuff I learned was more verbal than trading on the instruments. He said solo's like having a conversation, with a woman that you're interested in. You see her across the room, right? You go over, you say hello, right? If he doesn't say hello, you back away from it. So it's the same thing musically. No one said you had to like fight through and struggle. If you go into the solo thing and it's like going the wrong way or whatever, or you're not feeling it or whatever, back out of it.
Right.
Then hand the ball off.
Right.
So it's conceptual or whatever.
That's an extraordinary amount of discipline to get to, and maturity, and just bowing out when it's not your time anymore.
Like, okay, play a note here, and that's the thing too. It's and I don't want to just soloing wise, but when you step out, you have to like not care almost.
Right.
Because what freaks us out, we can have 100 people in the audience, like yeah, but we're concerned with that one bass player in the back that has his arm folded.
Oh yeah. That shit drives me crazy.
I live off that stuff. I love haters. Are you kidding me?
I'm like, why am I trying to please this guy? He probably, he's not gonna buy my records or whatever.
Right.
These people I'm making their booties move and the whole bit. That's what it's about. I'm not here to like, hey, you just hear that lick that I practiced all week, and nobody cared when I played it.
Right. That's kind of the plight of a performer or an artist. So comedians have the same kind of thing. Where it's like there can be a room full of people laughing and getting off on what they're saying. You have that one person in the back just like, I'd rather be anywhere else in the world right now. And it's like we just can't help but focus in on that and be like, why do you hate me?
Exactly.
Try to give you everything I got here. Like, why do you hate me?
And you see like the really famous ones. It's like, even like, let's say a Dave Chappelle. If he's doing this thing and somebody gets up and walks out, it bothers him.
Yeah, somebody like that, man. Guy's selling out arenas.
It's like,
one guy walks out.
It's like, what did I do? Wait a minute.
Yeah. It's the plight of an artist.
I don't know. I like it.
You like it? You like when they walk out and leave?
Oh no, when they walk out and leave. Yeah, I'm a real big fan of that. Yeah. No, I'm trying to say, I kind of like that. I'm like, I'm here to like prove myself, and it's like, I know I'm doing good. I'm not going to back down like, oh, nobody likes me. I'm like, no, you're going to like me by the end of this song.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way I look at it.
It's interesting.
You don't do that?
No, it's strange because that's
what I do.
I would feel
you're gonna like me.
I would feel like the roles would be reversed, given we have such different competency.
What do you mean?
Levels? You know what I mean?
You have none.
I'm
I have
typically
all of it?
no. I'm typically much more confident. You're typically the one
true.
who's like,
oh my god,
just in general,
you
just as a social scenario.
Oh yeah, but not on stage.
Not on stage. No, I'm a human. I'm a wreck on stage.
Oh, well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
On stage, before every gig that we have, he's playing his electric guitar like acoustically or whatever for like an hour straight.
Just to warm up. I can get the fingers going.
Just go in dry every time.
No, there's no way I could do that.
I'm always warmed up is my thing.
Yeah. Do you warm up, Al?
Yeah,
I'm just messing
I'm the same way too. It's like I have a bad habit of I'll have a month, before the gig, and the night before I'm trying to cram and make sure I know the tunes, but it's like I don't have it under my fingers, and it's been a while since I played. And I noticed if I play an hour straight right before the gig, that's when it's the best for me, because I'm not thinking anymore, and it's very hard for me to play the wrong note. It's just like because that's when things start to happen badly for me, when I get in my own head.
Yep.
If I flub or whatever, and then I just like, oh my God, what's going on? And then it just gets out of control or whatever. But trying to keep it. The thing is, you got to project one thing where you're feeling another thing inside.
Right. Exactly. That's kind of like the. So you gotta be an actor also. Yeah,
that's the whole thing. The music is one thing, but people are kind of watching the body language too.
I agree.
And that's kind of one of the things, especially like when I'm thumping or whatever. Right now, realistically, if I'm sitting in the house, I'm doing like this or whatever. But I have the big strokes, so the guy in the back can see what I'm doing. He's
right.
Like, oh my God, he's doing something amazing. And no, I'm just theatrics.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's got to be hard. It's just.
People love to see that kind of shit. That's what it's all about.
It's like, fall down, wipe your sweat, and it's like, oh my God, this is so hard.
Right.
Okay, but I'll go on for you.
Right. Right. Really inside yourself. Okay, just another gig, bro.
Exactly.
I'll dance on stage, or I'll jump around. I'm like one of the only keyboardists that's play standing up. I can't sit down and everything like that.
He gets.
But before I was playing music, I did like plays and was.
Okay.
Not an actor, but I was just a kid or anything like that. But I did that for a long time, like all the way up from like 6 until I was like, almost 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, you got it. You're on. People are also looking at you while they're listening to you.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna perform live, you gotta
yeah,
be entertaining to look at too.
Well, it's like Axl Rose, man. I think Axl Rose gets up there every night and is just feeling like a rock star. I'm sure he has some nights where he doesn't want to be there, and he still jumps around on stage like just I don't know, a complete rock star,
right.
And puts on the show.
Yeah, everything. Iggy Pop ever had a bad night?
Or the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or anything.
That didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you touch on something. That's the bad thing. It's like if you're not feeling well as a performer in a band, you can't call in sick because it affects 5 or 6 other people. So
totally, especially in bands like that, because you're not just going to call when you're talking about like $1 million production here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not where it's you're not going to call a fill-in for Slash.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like we'll just get someone else to play the gig. This guy knows our tunes. It's no, maybe Guns N' Roses.
You got like badasses like B.B. King, where you just like sit down in a chair, and like that alone is just like enough to be like, that's badass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like you gotta have high energy or anything like that. You just it is people are looking at you too.
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta look good, and BB King always look fucking good.
Oh
too.
yeah,
and that's the thing too. Is how your audience first received you, right?
Right.
If he came out there before like Little Richard or something, and then midway through his career he's gonna sit down and be like, what the heck is this?
Right.
But he's always done that. That's always been his thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a curse, because a lot of times you have musicians, and maybe you've experienced this, where you've been playing this for like 10 years, this set, and you want to do something new.
Yeah. And
you played a new thing, and they're like, you want to hear blah blah blah, So you kind of, all right, fine, play, And it's just, you got to please the crowd,
Yeah, totally. I can't say we've had that happen because nobody knows any of our songs, but we have had it happen with covers though a couple of times. There's a couple covers that the band does that people know for sure that we do. Mm-hmm. So they come to see us and they know that they want to, like we do Foreplay and Long Time by Boston.
Uh-huh.
So, and then the ridiculous organ intro that Billy does a really good job on.
Uh-huh. I'm much more classical.
He's classically trained. So people definitely want to see that, and like we've played it. We for like the last 2 years we've been closing out like every show with it. So in our heads we're like, it's time to move on to something else. But people are like, play Foreplay.
Exactly.
It's like, we have like we're like working on our second album right now. Like we have songs that we've written too.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You gotta play what they want sometimes. I don't know
Yeah,
what to tell you.
it's
totally.
just,
I
you know,
get it.
it's-
Or you can be like DJ Request.
Yeah.
Be like,
Yeah, like-
I don't play requests.
Yeah.
Just be a dick. I don't know. I think those people are kind of dicks, but at the same time, like,
Yeah, I get it. So speaking of being in creative projects and different bands and stuff, and also what's happening right now, we can segue into this.
Perfect.
Boom.
Yeah.
So let's talk about segue a little bit. What was that
Okay.
process like?
So, what I did was I decided I wanted to start my own band, right? And where the name of the band came from when I was in 1-to-1, the drummer, Zach Robertson, every time we're playing something, he's like, let's put a segue in this, let's put a segue or whatever. And so it just kind of stuck with me. So I said, if I have my own band, I'm going to call it Segue. So that started that whole thing. So the next step was to find the players that kind of fit what I was kind of going for, which was like the Yellow Jackets, and that's a big influence of mine. Or
Love
whatever. So
Yellow
I wanted to
Jackets.
do, something like that. So I went and I saw Scott Rademacher was playing with Gary Starling at the time.
Okay.
I'm like, that guy has the fire in him, like a Mark Russo type thing. Drummer, young kid who's producing and doing all sorts of wonderful stuff. Corey Johnson, drummer.
Okay.
Like, I want him. Another fantastic guitarist, Clay Benjamin. I said, that's my guy, for that. And keyboard wise, it was this guy named Elijah Atlas Paris, and he does a whole lot of jazz stuff. Just a phenomenal keyboard player. And I said, I want to do this thing, and let's do a project. And everybody was on board. And to get buy-in, I said, everybody has to write a song for the project. So that kind of got
Smart.
got them more interested. It's like, okay, and the rest is history.
So I have something I like to do with this podcast is kind of dive into some aspects of being in a band and running a band that you don't really hear anywhere else. And part of that is a dynamic of being a hired gun versus being like a band leader. Can you explain a little bit about what that dynamic meant for you? And do you feel like, having been a part of other projects in the past, that it kind of informed your ability to be a band leader?
I'm sure there were some takeaways. It's kind of like working in corporate America when you're just like in the trenches, and you have several different managers that you've worked for. But what do? You pull different things. I didn't like this about them. I didn't like how they treated me.
100%.
I didn't like this. I like this or whatever. So you pull all those things that kind of like going to be part of. You say to yourself, if ever I'm a manager, this is how I'm going to run my show.
So becoming your own boss. I had no idea. Yeah, exactly what you're talking about.
And so that was that part of it. I think the other part you said, sideman versus.
Yeah.
So sideman is just, it's kind of like being a consultant. I have no vested interest. I don't care really what happens to the company or whatever. I'm here to do my job, and that's it. Don't ask me about what.
Get paid.
Get paid. That's it.
Right.
What do you want? You want 3 notes here? Fine. You do the job or whatever.
Right.
Now, the reason why I started my own thing was because a lot of bass players and a lot of drummers, they're great. They're phenomenal. But they're at home. And you know why? Because they're waiting for somebody to call them.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to do my music, whatever. Why not?
Right.
So that was the impetus for me to get out there and like start my own thing. I want to play my music. I want to do it this way or whatever. And it's time.
Right. You've been seeing that more lately too. Like, are you familiar with Brian Blade?
Yeah.
Drummer. He's like phenomenal. One of my favorite drummers of all time. Started his own project, and he's doing all kinds of collaborations, like Christian McBride and like a bunch of people in that circuit. And then obviously like your Marcus Millers and Victor Wootens, Steve Bailey.
Yeah.
A lot of people that just kind of go off and start their own projects for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
Do you think that so we'll get back to all the stuff with segues. You guys did a lot of cool things I want to talk about. But do you think since you started that band, and then after it disbanded for a little bit, do you think that kind of informed your ability to be a hired gun, like a little bit, maybe kind of like change your perception of what it meant to be a hired gun after you had your own band?
Not really the thing, because here's the thing: if I'm a hired gun, and when I was a hired gun before the Segway thing, my thing was to be professional, show up on time, know the music, and I hate this. People show up to rehearsal, and then they're learning the songs there. I'm like, no, this is not practice. This is rehearsal. You should have known this, and we're gonna work on parts, or if we need to fix things.
Right.
So I always pride myself in having that professionalism.
Right.
I'll come there. I know my parts or whatever. I might have to sit there until these other guys work their things out or whatever. But you said this is what it is. It pays this much. This is when it starts. In the whole pit, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you seen? I don't know if you have experienced this, but one of the band. It's time for the downbeat, and one of the musicians is running through the door. To set up when it's time for the downbeat.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, okay, we got to start anyway. Just go finish setting up and jump in where whatever.
That drives me crazy.
I don't know. I think me and Anton are both not that way at all. We're trying to do our own thing. The number one thing that you can always do is show up on time.
Yeah.
There's nothing hard about that.
Yeah. Well, that's
I'm like, it shows respect to the leader of the band and the band itself.
Exactly. It's like you've taken the time. First off, as a band leader, you put a lot of time and effort into whatever it is you're trying to do, and then you've hired me because you have the confidence in my ability to do my job.
Exactly.
I'd say, why would I give you any reason to not want to hire me again in the future?
Right.
There's some band leaders out there that take it to the next level. There's a guy, I won't mention his name because he's pretty well known just in the Southeast, but he's a guitar player from South Florida, which is where I got my start down south.
Okay.
He ran a pretty big corporate band, and they had a gig in Ocala. And one of the guys showed up wearing the wrong color suit. Okay, you're talking about driving from West Palm Beach to Ocala. He sent the guy home.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he had a wrong color suit on?
Yeah, he's also fired people on the gig for playing the bass line a little wrong.
Where's this gig?
Wow.
Shit like that.
Where's the gig where you have to wear a suit though?
It's a wedding gig.
Oh, that's right, in Ocala. Oh, I see.
It's a wedding
I
gig.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just there's some guys that take it to the extreme.
Extreme.
However, he's got a resume and he's great and pays top dollar for his gig, so he wants what he wants. You can get it. But I've heard stories like that, and I've never been that guy, but I have. I'm not that brutal where I fire people on a gig,
right.
But I will for sure never call you back though. And I had one guy, I won't mention his name.
The show
either.
must go on. I mean, you're gonna play the gig because you're here, but you're never playing the gig.
Yeah, I had one guy eating. He's a drummer. He was eating chicken wings during the set in the middle of the song. I
was at that gig.
I was like, are you wild? I never called him again. Shit like that. It's just so what are you doing?
We're done here.
Yeah, it's like
I was amazed. I know he's a drummer. He can do two things at one time, but he was eating chicken wings on his cell phone at the same time. That's pretty impressive.
I'm impressed.
So I would have. Honestly, I would have hired him back. You know
What's your worst experience with somebody on a gig doing some weird shit like that?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Let me think. Sheesh.
Showing up
just showing. Yeah. That's the thing. Or drummers showing up without their throne sticks.
Jeez.
We had to take what was it? Oh, they didn't have the beater, so we had to turn the
what?
bass drum, the beater.
The beater. Sorry.
So we had to turn the bass drum on this side, and they had to play like that. I'm like, you're a drummer.
Yeah.
Why do you not have your stuff?
Yeah, that kind of shit.
I've
seen that.
So that was, and I'm sure I've done some,
I was gonna say, you have any stories?
Yeah, I've done some stuff too.
You want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, no, let me see. The worst was probably I went to it might have been a listening session, and I had a gig right after that. And I was drinking tequila, which I don't drink today because I realized what it does to me.
Yeah.
And got to the gig, set up, ate something, and all of a sudden I just crashed. And I got up to play the gig, and I was like, it's just horrible for one song. But luckily there was a bass player you know, in the audience, and kind of, so he took over the gig for me.
Oh, he took go. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like you got a sub in the audience.
Yeah, sub after you're already there.
Yeah. So needless to say, that guy never called me back.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's wild.
Yeah. And then I have a bad habit too. If I'm playing, a lot of times I play with my eyes closed, right? And then I got accused of, I was like, hey man, you were taking like Molly's or whatever, you know, whatever. My friend saw you type of thing or whatever. I'm like, I don't even do drugs. I might, you know, drink, but, you know, so that was one of the things. So we got into a little argument there, whatever. We've since, you know, reconciled or whatever, but that was kind of weird. Other than that, that's pretty much it. You know?
Yeah.
I've had my
fair share,
you know. So.
I remember one time I played the Swanee Amphitheater stage. This was the last show we played at Lucky Costello at a Purple Hatter's Ball. And because I like to move on stage like a lot and jump around and stuff like that, I moved my hand like that to like we were doing back and forth between me and the guitarist, and I was like, "It's your turn to solo." And I knocked my laptop all the way off the stage on the fucking amphitheater. Man.
Oh my god!
And like it just was like this awful sound. And I'm just like, great, and then like and it's just middle of like a solo section between me and him, like just like turn everything down, and then he plays his solo, and then it's my turn to play. I'm like, I can't play.
Oh my god.
That's why I probably like worst like stage performance. Anyways, but just showing up on time, and I think maybe a couple times I forgot a PA stand. That's about it.
Yeah, that's not bad. I forgot my amplifier at one time.
Oh no, that's a funny story too, where you thought it was broken and he wasn't turned on.
Oh yeah, that happened one time.
That's one of my
that
favorite
happened
stories.
one time. Yeah, but no, this one
freaking the fuck out.
This one was a big problem. It was one of the first bands I had started myself, and we were playing at a place down in Fort Lauderdale called the Culture Room, and we were opening up for this reggae artist named Trevor Hall, and he was just like, he's pretty famous now in that kind of California reggae scene, but at the time he was really starting to develop, like, build a name for himself. So we were stoked to get on there, and we show up to the gig, and I was like, and I was also on probation because I had a DUI at this time, so I couldn't drive or do anything. So show up to the gig, and my friend's house, the drummer's house, was like 35-40 minutes from where the gig was at, and it was, my amp was at his house because we had a rehearsal earlier that day, and I was like, yo, I don't have my amplifier. And they were like, well, we sound check in like 10 minutes. And you know how, like, when you're the opener, you know how those goes. It's like they give you like 10 minutes and then you're done.
You're done. Get out.
Yeah. So I was like, well, we said, I don't know. We're gonna. So I had to, like, his mom luckily was coming to the show and hadn't left the house yet, so she brought the amplifier. And I didn't get a sound check with it, but I was able to set up and play. Much to my drummer's demise, because he hated the way I played guitar. Luckily, it was my band, so he didn't really get a say. But
exactly.
All right, so I want to go back to Segway because you guys did some really cool stuff. So you opened up for a lot of artists, like kind of in the smooth jazz kind of realm.
Yeah, and the jazz as well. You mentioned Brian Blade. Yeah. So we opened up for him at the Sunfest. It wasn't his gig. It was Joshua Redman's gig.
Okay.
So it's him, Josh Redman, Ruben Rogers.
Okay.
And Benny Green on keys.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then others, you know, the Keiko Matsuis, the Yellow Jackets. Yeah.
How'd you guys do that? Like,
come on, man.
Well, I'm curious because nowadays, this is what, like late 90s. So nowadays we have social media and we have access to people that are doing booking. If I want to find out who books, you know, like anybody, I can just go online and find that out, right? So you didn't have the same resources back then, I would imagine, not in the same way that we have it now. So how'd you guys do it back then?
Couple of things. So you might not be able to find out who the promoter is, right? But a lot of times, these venues, like let's take the Florida Theater, I know who was running that whole thing, and I would approach them like, hey, you need an opening act for this, blah, 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 you need an opening act for this, and you get some FaceTime, and you get your music in front, and you might not get it the first time, but, you know, the third time, it's like, okay, fine, you know, I'll let you open up for this particular act or whatever. You know, so it was that type of thing, persistence.
Right.
You know? Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then somebody hears you, play there, and that's how we got the jazz festival. Someone was in the audience from the I guess the jazz festival committee, and they said, "Oh, that band's pretty cool." Then they reached out to you, say, "Hey, you want a slot here?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's take it or whatever." And then the rest of it, like I was just sending out packages after package. Like you there's a book that you can get, and all of the festivals around the country and outside of the United States, and you just send your package, and then then that was it, and then you just the follow up, the follow up.
How would like, okay, so say that promoter came and saw you at a festival, how would they know how to contact you?
They would ask, the people or the venue itself. Like for instance, the promoter has to interact with the director of the place or whatever. Like, yeah, that band that played or whatever.
Oh,
who
that
was
makes sense. So they'd be like, hey, who's the band that you had here?
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
Then they get your contact information from them, and then so on and so forth.
Oof.
So it's actually
a lot of hard work.
It's actually not that much different than how it's done now. It's just instead of having the internet, you had like just physical copies of books and cards and that kind of stuff.
And even now, even on the internet, it's not like the promoter's phone number's on there anyways. You know what I mean?
Right. You call.
It'll be their email, and you'll be like the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
bottom of the barrel, ladies and gentlemen.
A lot of it too is name dropping.
Yeah.
Too. So it's like, hey, blah blah blah. Yada yada yada, or resume sometimes or whatever, or just helps.
So did you guys cut a record at that time as well?
Yeah, we cut I'll Tell You in a Second.
Okay.
Right, and then we were fortunate enough to have Victor Wooten play on that project.
Right.
Yeah, that's dope, man.
Yeah, so that kind of gave some weight, to the whole thing. And I did what I'm doing now or whatever. You form these relationships with the magazines, because then you got the their whole marketing thing or whatever. And that's the same thing too. It's with Victor. So if I put it out there that Victor's playing on my project or whatever, right? Now I got his audience too, because they're gonna want to hear what he did on my project.
Right.
Then by happenstance, somebody say, "Oh, this band is pretty cool." So now I got that following as well. Too. So
right.
it's just just kind of figuring out the game. And the thing too is I would go to NAMM every year.
Man, I want to go to that.
So bad. You have to go.
I know.
And I met so many people. I met so many editors from different magazines. I met, so many luthiers, so many, the whole shebang or whatever. And, I would have demos on a little, like, what do you call it, the Rockman or whatever, the little CD thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I just walk up to them, hey, blah, 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 check this out. Put the headphones on, play.
No shit.
Well, that's pretty dope or whatever, you get your endorsement or whatever. And that's the thing, too, is if they're going to endorse you, then and you have the instrument, then the next step is to kind of get them to put you in ads,
right,
or promote their product and you as well.
So what's that process like? Because I've always been very curious about endorsements and how you get.
I mean, pretty much explain it. You go to NAMM and you put a discman out.
I understand. I understand, but I'm saying
that's like guerrilla warfare.
Right,
awesome.
but
yeah, it's like,
but. There's a follow-up process where it's like you can have an endorsement and then just be put on their website and then just nothing ever happens again.
Right.
So how do you, I guess, cultivate and maintain those relationships?
It's presence. You got to do things. You gotta put stuff out. That's the whole thing too. You're not going to get anything like, because you're a great player or whatever. I had the guys from Even Bass Player Magazine like, okay, here's the deal. Don't come to me unless you have something to promote. He said, yeah, he's a badass, but then what?
Right.
It's not doing anything for them or me.
Right.
So if I have something to promote, they'll take it, put it out there. Now I'm making money. People, then come to me, but also they're like, I'm in their magazine, and they're like, oh, cool. So it's a semiotic relationship type thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what I've been kind of realizing too. It's like through like a lot of trial and error and just rejections or just never getting answers to anything through emails and everything. I've realized that you have to have something to offer. And it's not in the sense of where it's like selfish where it's like they don't want to work with you unless, but it literally they don't have anything to talk about.
Exactly.
You know, it's like if it's like, well, yeah, it's like, you know, we're a band and we're really good. We want to be featured in your magazine or in your blog or whatever it might be. And it's like, okay, well, what do you have to promote? And it's like, well, we're trying to get recognition. We don't have anything. It's like, how do we get recognition without this? And it's like, okay, well, come back to me when you have something.
Yeah, that's not how cross promotion works.
Yeah,
you gotta have both of it.
Yeah, so that's what. Yeah, so basically what you're saying, I've learned a lot of that over the years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing too is you can't, you know, wear your heart on your sleeve. You're gonna get a ton of no's.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna get a ton of rejections and whatever. It's like, okay, they weren't feeling it, but you gotta keep, you know. For instance, if you talk to these editors, it's like whatever, blah blah blah. Call them a few months later. Hey, what's going on? Blah blah blah. How you doing? I'm like, okay, whatever. And call them a few months later, whatever. When you get the project, hey, I got this, man. You want to check it out? Yeah, let me check it out. You know, all of a sudden they just soften, and it's like, now they know you. Either you're like this great cat or that annoying dude, but they know your name.
Right.
Persistence pays off.
Yeah.
Story of my life.
Yeah, it's that's something I've been doing a lot more of recently, is just kind of relationships that we've made with people over the years through playing, just kind of like checking in. Shoot them a message, and nowadays you don't even have to make a phone call. You just shoot them a message. You know, say, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? Everything good? Especially now with this whole COVID thing, you just check in on your peers. You know,
right.
Say, hey man, we're all in this boat right now. Like, how you doing? You doing good? And just shit like that, and it goes a long way. And then when you call down the line, not that you're gonna call them for a favor, but at the same time, it's say, hey man, you got a cool opportunity coming up. Can I get in on that or what? You know, it's like figure just whatever. You know, like. So yeah, maintaining those relationships is super important. Even if you have nothing to say, just see how they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all human beings.
Long way.
Yeah,
you know,
big time. So I do want to get into all that stuff because you have some really cool stuff that I want to talk about with your personal stuff. But I do want to know what was like. Did Victor work in the studio with you guys? What was that experience like?
It's the craziest thing ever. So the Flecktones was playing a jazz festival, and so we coordinated it. Right, so the bus pulls in, and I go pick up Victor, and we go right over to the studio. He listens to the song, one take, take him back to the bus.
What? Really? That's amazing.
I was like,
What, you do like a solo on there or something?
Yeah, a solo.
Okay, yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the name of the song?
Want It Be Grand. If you look up Segway on, Want It Be Grand. Yeah.
Want to Be Grand. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check that out. That sounds.
Yeah, it's just like, amazing.
So I have some friends that have featured some artists, like bigger names, on their albums as well. And I've got mixed reviews from people on how it worked out for them. Would you? And I don't know the details of how you guys worked it out with Victor Wooten, but do you think it did you guys? Do you think that it was worth? Do you think it was worth it? The payoff in the long run?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, again, we talked about, handing out your CD or trying to get on somewhere, and it's like, getting a write-up. Chris Chissy that writes for BP, he's like, well, Victor's on this or whatever, so that kind of got us in, these guys are legit, if he's going to play on their project, they must be legit. And then all that does is like, gives your music a chance to be heard.
Yeah. Almost like verifies you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
it's that
like,
blue check mark next to your name now.
Yeah. And that's all it is. It's like no one's, and it's a marketing thing, not necessarily like, okay, this is the best person or whatever. No, it's just a marketing thing or whatever. And for me, it was kind of like, one of my heroes or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like, come on and do this thing or whatever. So.
Cool, man. Yeah, I've always been curious about that. We had some friends of ours, well, not friends of ours. There's a band that it's kind of on the same circuit that we are, and they featured like members of. Are you familiar with Trey Anastasio from Fish? He's a guitar player.
I think I might have heard of the name.
Okay, so yeah, he's got his own band, and he has like a horn section and everything. And this other band, they got his horn section on their album, and I'm sure it cost them a pretty penny to make that happen. But I've heard through the grapevine that they didn't feel like it was worth it for them because they didn't get the recognition or it didn't really work out in the same way that it had worked out for other people. So that's why I was curious, because some people put a lot of money into that. Other people, it's like, well, this just works out. You just come do it real quick for free or whatever. Like, so I've been curious as to how that works out for people.
Well, there are two trains of thought. There's the marketing side of it or whatever. You want to build a thing, but also there has to be the emotional side too. It's like when you draw up this song or whatever, if you're gonna bring somebody in, it's because you hear them on the song.
Ah, I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that way, it's about the art, not necessarily it's gonna get me this or whatever. But it's like, man, I hear this. Like if I'm doing something that's 6/8, right? Whatever. Immediately I'm hearing Will Kennedy, that type of thing or whatever. Or I did a Brazilian tune that's on the project too. I heard Frank Mbali, doing a solo.
Did you get him on there?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
That's fucking badass.
Yeah. So that's the thing too. It's like these people aren't like untouchable, especially instrumentalists. They're all about if it sounds good or whatever, they're gonna play on it.
Yeah.
You have to pay them a little bit, of course, but it's like and it's just like it's just it means a lot. It means if I don't make $1 from it, I just got the the honor of having them on the project, whatever, and then the song is forever. It's in the ether, and it's like, I get to play with one of my heroes, type of thing or whatever.
That's super cool, man. That's a great perspective.
They always say don't meet your heroes, though.
Hmm?
They always say don't meet your heroes, though.
Some of that's true.
Oh, you got somebody just popped up here. I don't want to talk about it.
Immediately. Yeah, and it's on a couple of occasions or whatever. I'm not gonna say. I mean, super amazing, player, famous, but it's just like, I was just devastated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, wow. But all the other ones, I mean, like I said, DeMarcus, great. Victor, great. Will, great. Patitucci, great. All of them, have been really, really humble and really cool.
That's
people.
awesome.
But yeah, like I said, there's a few of them that I don't even say hello to you anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, and again, you have to separate that. It's like, okay, that's you, but your music's still great.
Right.
So,
Right. It's a hard thing to do sometimes, man. It's like when somebody's influenced you in such a way, and then like you meet them, it's like, okay, it sucks. You have to kind of take an inventory of your past and be like, everything that I thought informed who I am musically is now being challenged because you're such a douchebag.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's why they say don't meet your heroes.
A lot of that's like,
I never got that experience. I never got to meet. Well, actually, that's not true. But I made a fool of myself. I always get starstruck when I meet somebody like that. I'm just like, hey, how are you doing? I asked one of my favorite keyboardists when I finally got to talk to him. I was like, what's your repertoire? And I just asked him that straight up. And he was like, what's my what? And I was like, nothing. I gotta go. I was just an idiot.
and here's a funny thing. I got advice about meeting, your heroes and stars like that or whatever. He said, for instance, if he met, Steve Vai.
Yeah.
Right. He said, don't go up to them and say, man, I love your playing, you're awesome or whatever. They hear that every day, all day or whatever. Ask them a pointed question. When you're playing this or whatever, would you? They'll remember you. They'll stop and talk to you.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, all right, I'm sick of the glorification thing. You're awesome. And
well, yeah, because you've really picked. It's like you approach some of the question where it shows you've really picked apart what they do.
Exactly.
And like you want to, and like so that's, I totally get that for sure.
Yeah.
I understand why people get jaded. I could see that. It sucks when they take it like you're the one they take it out on.
Yeah.
But you can't blame them completely either.
No, they're people too, and they have bad days. There's another occasion where one guy was going through a divorce at the time or whatever, and then you have to give him a pass on that. On that, and it's like, okay, but yeah, just like us, you have bad day and this and that or whatever, and unfortunately, you're in that public eye. It's like actors and actresses or whatever. That thing you wanted becomes a thing that you hate.
Right.
You wanted attention, now you got all of it, and you can't even go get a burger.
Right. And there's a lot of people, like I know, like for me, it's much less about the fame and all that than it is more about just being able to make a comfortable living, do what you love to do. But unfortunately, the fame kind of comes with that at a certain point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a total recluse. I would fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to be left alone. I want to
Yeah.
be. I want to be rich and not famous. If that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing.
Definitely. You know.
All right, so let's talk about your new album coming up. What's the name of the album?
Behind Bars.
Behind Bars. I love that. So where's that name come from?
Come from two places. Obviously, the first and most apparent is music.
Yeah.
Bars. The stuff behind it. You're writing every note or playing every note or whatever, and getting it to where you're satisfied. You know, you got to live with this thing forever.
Right.
And then the other part of it is someone said the very thing that you want is on the other side of what you don't feel like doing. So until you do it, you're behind bars.
That makes sense.
So
It's pretty deep, man. I like that.
So is this going to be like a different record from what you've done in the past?
I think it's more evolved. It's, a lot of times, well, my playing obviously is evolved, and working with my son, who just wouldn't take me, you know, that's okay. You know, okay wasn't good enough. It had to be, you know, right, and you know. But aside from that, a lot of projects or CDs, if you will, they're themed, you know, so it's gonna, you know, flow or whatever. But I'm like, there's so many things I love. I love R&B, I love hip hop, I love jazz, I love, you know, Brazilian music or whatever. So all of that is on there, you know. So there's something for everyone. You know? And you know, I'm really happy with the way, you know, it came out or whatever. So
It's great, man. I can't wait to hear it. When are you planning on releasing it?
October 20th.
October 20th.
Wow, yeah, you're
Sweet.
well, because we're recording an album too right now. You've already, so you've been recording all this year and everything too, or?
Yeah, I've been recording this album. Believe it or not, I started it 10 years ago.
10 years
Oh,
ago.
good lord. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean any offense or anything like that. I was just you've been doing the same thing as us.
Yeah, and it was, you know, it was a thing where I'm like, you know, I'll do it or whatever. And for whatever reason, the last 2 years, my son really got on me. He's like, you got to do this. You got to do this. And he was dogmatic about it, and you know, getting the songs to me. He wrote a lot of it, most of it. I did a few covers, and I wrote a couple of songs on it as well. And he would fly here because he's based in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, cool.
So fly here, record, and then he would fly back or whatever, and you know, we just piecemealed it. And then a lot of the drum stuff I sent out to have done. Will Kennedy sent him. He sent his drum tracks back, and another keyboard player, Alex Argento, he's in Palermo, Italy.
Okay.
Sent him stuff. He sent it back or whatever, and yeah, so that's kind of how we did the whole thing. And then the rest, most of the pre-production was done in California because he had the musicians out there, the other drummers, whoever else. And he plays most of the stuff on the project. Like he plays the keys, he plays the synth bass, he plays the guitar. You know, and all that stuff. You know,
Awesome.
drum patch and stuff.
Yeah, it's cool that we're able to do that now. Kind of piece together, like these songs and these albums.
Absolutely.
You know, it makes it a lot more cost effective, and just
Yeah.
it's cool to be able to collaborate with people that you don't normally get to collaborate with as well.
Exactly. And I was fortunate enough to, like, everybody that played on it, they played passionately. You know, when I first sent the track to Frank Impali, he was gonna play his electric or whatever, and I wanted acoustic on it, you know, because it's, you know, it's a Brazilian type thing or whatever. And he was saying that, you know, it's because of his hands and whatever. I'm not a guitarist, so it's like it's a lot of work or whatever. I played electric, but then when he got the tune, he's like, no, I got to do acoustic on this, and he did it. Yeah,
That's cool.
so he did it, and it's, you know, amazing. The only thing I requested from him, I'm like, I have to have a couple of those sweeps.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
he provided. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Can you do sweeps on an acoustic guitar?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's got to have good sustain though to make that work, right?
No, you just have to be very clean in your playing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Trust me, he did it.
Yeah, there's very little about being a musician that I found out that's solely because of your instrument or or your gear.
What about the whammy bar?
90% of it, well, that's part of the 10% that I'm
Okay,
ignoring.
sorry.
90% of it is just on you.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I got so lost for a long time when I was first getting started playing in bands, trying to find that perfect tone. Oh, this is gonna make me sound like that. This is gonna make me sound like that. I just got to a point where I was like, you just have to stop sucking so much. There's not gonna be there's not like a suck pedal or a suck knob on your instrument that you can
Turn it
actually
down.
just turn down. It's like, or you can just kick on. It's like you gotta just be good, and then the rest of the shit you can make anything sound good. I've seen guys. When I used to work at Sam Ash down in Miami, it was like I saw guys come in and pick up $100 Squire with the action that was way too high, plugged into a little Line 6 modeling amp, and made that thing sound glorious.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
That's true. My old drummer used to have this Casio tone keyboard that came out in the 80s, like 1983. That's what I'm gonna buy here in a little bit. It was like $100 on eBay. The whole point is like just playing that, like this tiny little annoying, like basically kid's keyboard or whatever, and just playing that, like I can play that and I love it.
Yeah.
But you got to model. You got to play with what you got. Work with what you got, right?
Well, actually, I found a Fender Jazz Squire fretless in a pawn shop for like $129.
Good Lord.
I used it on this project.
Oh, you did?
It sings.
Really?
Oh my god.
For $130?
Yeah, but it's one of the things I think somebody didn't know what they have, you know, whatever, or they're like, you know, hey, you know how it is. I want to be this or whatever. I want to be Jocko this week, and they get it, and it's like, I'm over it, and just go sell it for whatever.
Also, it could have been somebody who was trying to do like a project guitar or a project bass and change the pickups out on it, and like that doesn't add any resale value. So like a pawn shop or a music store is just gonna be like, I don't care if these pickups cost you $200. Like
Exactly.
you're still getting $100 for the guitar.
Exactly.
You know. So yeah.
I've really wanted to learn how to play bass in the past year. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's
lessons,
just
Al?
No, I show. I'm a shower.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, you want to learn a specific thing or whatever, I'll show you how to do that or whatever. But you know, like I said, I'm not the big theory guy or whatever, and I can show you kind of like what I do in my concepts, which are really simple.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of, I've shown guys some, a few things here and there. But.
So you wouldn't be a good.
That's not really what I was asking. I was trying to say that I've been looking at basses to buy.
Yeah.
And one of our friends who plays bass up in North Carolina, he was showing me like the Japanese youth basses that they had. I can't remember the name of it. You probably do.
Well, the new ones now you can get
it was like from
Sire.
It was sort of like from the 60s, I think.
60s? Oh, okay.
I can't remember what it's called, but it was interesting. I've got small hands, I think, even for a piano player, and I was playing that youth size bass. I'm like, oh my god, I can play bass. That was my problem before. It's like I can't put my hands around this thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, scaling. So even for me, and I have long fingers, I can't play a bass to save my life.
Really?
I can if I'm playing like a funk tune or something, I can just play quarter notes in the one for you all day. Just boom, boom.
That's all you need. And like you alluded to something earlier, setup is key.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my bass, you can just probably touch it and the notes jump off. I'm not trying to, strings like 15 feet off the fretboard. No, it's you got to find that balance too, so it doesn't kind of like bottom out in the whole bit. But once you find that sweet spot, for you, man, it's just like.
Do you play stand-up bass too with jazz?
No, I do not.
Okay, I was just wondering. I don't know if that's like super more difficult or anything. It looks like it is because it's bigger, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's like I started playing.
It's fretless though. I know that.
Yeah, and it's arced, too. And then they have exercises because it's based on positioning, right? And when you're first learning, they have this thing called the bloody thumb, where you have to come over and play. Because you can't fret all the way down.
Right.
So you have to reach over, and you just, I guess, skinning up your thumb or whatever. It's just, so it's tuned the same, but it's a different animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like playing a different instrument altogether. Similar concept as far as how you play it, or like what the purpose of it is, but just a different approach to physically how you play it. It's a completely different instrument.
It's totally present first, second, third, fourth position, I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it wouldn't fit in the back of my car, so
yeah.
There you go.
Call it a day.
Yeah.
So for this album, you got a write-up in Bass Player Magazine. Was that's all
awesome,
for promotion?
Man, that's amazing.
For this album?
Yes.
Congratulations on that, by the way. And that's
Thank
very
you.
awesome. And that I don't know how how difficult that was for you to pull off, but that seems like quite the mountain to climb for me.
It was,
so that's cool.
And it goes back as simple. You know, I had a relationship with the other editor, several editors, you know, over the years.
Yeah.
And so this particular editor, I talked to him maybe about a year ago about my son's stuff or whatever. And then that's when he'd say, well, when the project's coming out, it's got something, send it to me. So then when I finished this, I sent it to him, and he loved it. And he's like, you have a press kit, you know, whatever? And I'm like, yeah. So this, you know, I run a press release. So pipe something together real quick, send it out, and then a day or two later, all of a sudden he's like, here it is. I'm like, what's this? I went to the link, and I'm like,
holy shit.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. So
have you been doing that with different publications, like sending stuff out and doing like a whole marketing campaign with it?
Absolutely.
And doing it all yourself?
All myself.
That's...
I mean, my job is, you know, I write software, so I sit in front of a computer all day.
Yeah, so you can just do it. Yeah,
do it and send it.
I took this job. I'm in customer service.
Oh, okay.
But for a call center, I took a night shift job. So from 12 to 6:30, there's nothing, and that's when I'm like, I'm sitting in front of a computer, and I got my keyboard set up and everything.
Nice. So you can write up all of our press kits and all that stuff.
I'm not too terribly good at writing though, but I could learn.
Yeah, it's
writing about music is hard too.
It's especially when you're writing about yourself.
No, yeah, that's probably even worse.
Like, but I gotta hype myself.
Yeah, you gotta take yourself out of yourself for a minute too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Write
you know,
in
like
the third person. And
exactly.
And like say things about your music that you would never say about your music.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, but it's you know, you can't say, oh, I'm all right. You know.
Yeah, I guess you know, I guess I could do the gig. I mean, there might be a couple other guys who do it better, but whatever.
That would be badass. I haven't seen like a first person like personal like description of themselves as a band, because that would be hilarious. Like, I'm awesome, and I play piano really well.
Yeah, it's always like
and you're and also you, and I'm talking to you in first person. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
That would be my writing. You want me to start writing it?
Yeah.
It's an SNL skit.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna ask before Corona and everything like that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big jazz guy or anything like that. Not that I hate it or anything like that. I just don't really know a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was wondering: are there like, and this is probably a stupid question. I already know it is stupid, but is there like cool jazz clubs around here that you can go and listen to? Jazz Hat, where you would play?
There's one, Breezy's, yeah. So,
I've never heard of that.
It's hit or miss, 'cause sometimes it's kind of like smooth jazz, and then sometimes it's hardcore. Like if you see a Barry Green or Scott Giddens playing there, yeah, then that's just going to be the heavy, hard hitting, you know, Large New Parsons, that type of thing. But you know, it's a mix. I play there periodically. You know, my thing is. I used
to live off University and Merrill Road, and there was this place called Jazzland Cafe.
Okay, yeah.
And I always was curious about it, and they had like the windows like boarded up almost, and there's like no like it just seemed like a real sketchy place. I didn't know if it was a jazz place or not. I figured it was called that.
Jazz, yeah, I think I heard something about that. And then there's the Blue Listening Room.
Blue Jay Listening Room.
Blue Jay Listening Room.
Kara's a good friend of ours.
Yeah. We had her on
actually
here.
on a podcast a few months ago.
Okay.
But yeah, where would you play around here with Segway? Is what I guess I'm trying to ask.
That would probably be like Breezy's or whatever. Or there's like another spot. It's kind of like my home spot, if you will. It's called the Island Girls.
Island Girl.
Yeah.
The
Parkway. It's a cigar bar.
Yeah, cigar bar. I used to play there all the time when I first
I used
moved
to teach piano across the street from there at Schroeder's. I think it's closed now though, but I'm not positive. Yeah, I know.
So you guys play there as a band?
Well, I when I play there as the Reshard band.
Okay.
Right, and that, you know, again, it's kind of hard as a band leader to get people fully on board, you know, because they have other things to another. So I have a stable, if you will.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm like, I pull, you know, I have like 3 different sax players. I use Juan Roland, you know, it's phenomenal. Jaron Walker, I used him. What's this other guy's name? I forget. But just Luigi Arredondo, I think his name is. And I can't think. But for the most part, I use James Davis on drums.
Okay.
And I was using Elijah Parrish on keys, and what's his name? He just got a write up in Folio too. Keyboard player, phenomenal.
Is
The
it,
name escapes me.
Not Javian.
I used Javian before. No.
Eric Brigman.
I haven't used Eric Brigman. This other guy. What
Aaron Larian, kid.
Mm-mm.
No.
Young guy, Afro. It's like French or something like that or whatever. What is his name?
Can't think of him.
Yeah. Pierre. Jonah Pierre.
Oh, okay.
Pierre, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, right, because we're talking about jazz clubs, right? That's what you wanted to.
Yeah.
I was just wondering where you were playing, and then
Mhm.
also like I don't know, like, that just sounds.
You want to go see? You want to go find some jazz?
right, like live and everything like
Yeah.
that. I
Well,
wanna,
Monday nights. I think Blue Jay
I-
might be picking it up again. Monday nights they had a jazz jam going on there with Eric Brigman from JJ Gray and Mofro was running it with his band, which was a great night. There were some killer players that went out there. Breezy's is a great jazz club.
Where is Breezy's?
Downtown in Adams. Is
Adams,
it?
mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like super close to
Right next to
1904.
It's right down the street.
Oh, how have I not seen that
right next
before?
to right if you're on Adams Street, right before you hit Hogan.
Yeah.
Where the train thing is. It's right there on the right hand side.
I played
Okay,
there
alright.
I played there one time. I don't do jazz gigs very
You know what?
often.
I think
but
I have.
do
I
love
think
to
I've
play
seen
at
it.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another place that opened up in Riverside, like in 5 Points, called Jazzies or something.
What?
I think they're trying to do like a jazz kind of thing, but I've seen reggae bands and stuff in there, but I think they're trying to do like a jazz kind of night. I don't know what their deal is, but yeah.
Oh, and Sundays, the the Casbah is.
Yep. Oh
Casbah?
yeah, Casbah. Yeah,
They do Sunday nights.
Riverside, Avondale.
All right.
Yeah, I've seen some killer jazz bands there.
Just interesting.
Yeah.
Something new
Yeah.
for me, anyways. No offense. I just would like to see that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's really impressive that you've been able to take on all the marketing and all that stuff yourself. People pay like literally tens of thousands of dollars for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's a the whole thing, man. It's rough. I mean, I can imagine being a huge star and having to do all the stuff. That's why I have the managers. You have your personal assistant. You have your accountant, and then you have your marketing team. And,
right.
Yes, it's a daunting task or whatever, but you know what? I got to do it. You
Yeah,
know?
for
It's,
sure.
I can't just let it sit on the vine and die.
Yeah. Oh,
Get it
it's-
out. And,
If you don't do any kind of marketing or promo on it, then it literally you release it and just goes out into the ether and nobody hears it.
that's it, and that's
You know?
that's what we want. More than anything, like you want people to hear something that you worked on and you're proud of. Whatever. And there's no bad responses. People might like it, people might not like it.
Right.
What you don't want is them to be indifferent.
That's man, I've been saying that forever. It's like I always feel like I would rather have somebody say I hate your music than to just be like
Exactly.
That's
You'd
the
have to like
wor-
go check it out. And, like, why does that person hate it? It's like you're just putting butts in seats. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you hate it, it evoked some kind of emotion out of you.
Exactly.
I
You know,
guess so.
if you just say it's like you literally like it could just have never existed.
Exactly.
Or you could have just never heard it and it would have been the same to you. At least if you hated it, it's like at least it ruined your day or something.
Right. It invoked an emotion, right?
Yeah,
It's like
So behind bars, guys, when it comes out, make sure you check that out. That's gonna be we heard
October 20th. You said, right?
October 20th, yeah.
We checked out. Was it Millerized?
Millerized.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
listening
it's a
to that
great
today
single.
too. Yeah, it was
if you're
great,
into
man.
like that Marcus Miller percussive like soloing, it's like just you're phenomenal, man.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Before we close it out, we got to do unpopular opinions. Did you think of one?
I thought of something. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to you in a minute. Hold on, let's do ours
We
first.
save yours for the last.
Save
'cause
yours
it's
for
the
last.
best.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we always do it. Okay, so
Before do you have any shows or anything like that coming up, or you just for the album release or anything?
The album release will be probably at Breezy. I just talked to
I want to go. I'll go.
Miss Jeffries about that, so it'll be in November sometime.
Okay.
awesome, man. Yeah, for sure. They'll definitely try and make that one.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool.
Okay, so my first unpopular opinion is as I'm sitting here drinking beer from Wicked Barley, I'm kind of over craft beer.
What?
Not really my
Come
thing
on,
anymore.
man.
I love Jen and Wicked Barley, and I will drink Wicked Barley beer because I love Wicked Barley beer. But just in general, it's like I find myself at a bar, like if the bar doesn't have liquor, because I'd rather drink liquor, I'll take a PBR or something. Honestly, just because I did the whole like I only drink beer from like craft breweries kind of thing for a long time. But I've gotten to the point now where it's like, just give me water with alcohol in it. Gross. I'm good with that.
Yeah, good.
I can't. So like
I was trying to catch
Bud Light or a
bro.
PBR.
Huh?
I can't do that.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
good with it.
My popular opinion. I've said this to a couple people because I just moved here from the beach after living there for like 15 years. I moved back up here in March, and some days on a muggy night, you smell the Maxwell Coffee House. I love that smell. A lot of people don't. They're like, "Ew, it smells disgusting." I'm like, "You don't like the coffee smell?"
I love the coffee smell.
Well, you do. So maybe it's not unpopular, but everybody else is like, "Oh, this smells." I'll always hear like. It smells awful outside. I'm like, it smells like someone just made an entire, like, I don't know.
Pot of amazing coffee.
Yeah. It smells good to me. Well, whatever.
So my second unpopular opinion is, and this is going to get twisted out of context, Frank Zappa is an overrated guitar player.
Yeah, man, I don't know what he's saying either.
And here's what I'm going to say about that, okay? Is that Frank Zappa is one of the most profound composers of the 20th century. He wasn't a great guitar player. Let's be real. Let's listen to his compositions and be like, holy shit, that's amazing. And then listen to his guitar playing. You're just always like, okay, but you're not like, I don't know, Larry Carlton or somebody, you know what I mean? It's just like like you're not even like Jimmy Page. Like you're just playing shit. I don't know. It's never done anything for me. You like Zappa at all?
I didn't listen to a whole lot of his music. I like his philosophies when he was talking about the music industry.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
But again, I guess you're kind of right. It isn't really talking about his guitar playing.
Yeah, he's really smart. I've learned from like listening to that kind of stuff about him. I've learned from that, and his music is. It's like, you know how you have like jazz fusion and funk fusion. His I would call like classical fusion. It's like he was very influenced by classical music, but also was very influenced by blues and rock and roll. So he has like this weird kind of thing going on. It's amazing compositionally. It's just as a guitar player, you're just like, that wasn't very good. Whatever you just played.
You know what? Not to cut into it, I forgot one of the things. One of the people to mention, who was a big influence of mine as well, and that's James Hogan.
Oh, James Hogan.
Yeah, playing his first project, just phenomenal, and just standing next to that guy and playing with him. Yeah, it's scary.
He's unreal.
And Barry Green and
the guitar player in my girlfriend's band, Alchematic, is the name of their band. Chris Underdahl, are you familiar with him? He went to UNF and studied under James Hogan. Okay. And he showed me a bunch of James stuff, and I'm just like, that guy's unreal. Yeah. And he plays like everything. He's not just like a jazz player. He plays like every and any style. He plays it authentically too. Yes. It's pretty impressive.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
My second unpopular opinion, just real quick, just brushed over this. Nobody exists, and consciousness is just the perpetuation of human evolution.
Okay. We're just gonna move on from that one. It's a little
don't want to delve deep into that one.
A little heavy for a Tuesday night, you know. Unpopular opinion number 3 for me is I like the current landscape for musicians.
The current? What do you mean?
Just what it means to be an artist today versus what it means to be an artist 30 years ago.
You're no longer an elitist.
Well, no, I think...
You think everybody should be a musician?
No, not that everyone should be a musician. I think that, quite the contrary. I think that it takes a certain kind of person to be a musician in today's age, with everything being in your own hands. Like, you're handling your marketing and promo stuff yourself because you've built those relationships. Like, you've recorded the album yourself without going to like a big studio and having to spend a shit ton of money on it. Right. Like, all of this, people are complaining musicians complain a lot because we have a lot of overhead now because we have to pay for our own marketing teams, we have to pay for our own studio time. The labels aren't doing what they were doing 30 years ago. Right. So there's a lot of pushback from musicians about how it's very difficult today to be a musician versus 30 years ago. And I'm just saying that I actually like the dynamic today because it's all in our own hands. If nobody knows who you are or nobody listens to your music, that's 100% on you. or 90% on you. There's always going to be that if factor, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's all in your hands now, and I like that dynamic.
Yeah, you're capable of doing whatever you want to do
Yeah.
on your own if you just work at it.
Exactly.
My last one before Al's last one is Christmas is better than Halloween.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You do agree with that?
Yeah, I like Christmas more than Halloween for sure.
I have to flip it because
You like Halloween?
Halloween is my daughter's birthday. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, you have
Well,
there's a
sorry.
caveat there. Yeah, you get can't compete with that.
That must be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an unpopular opinion?
I'm not sure if it's unpopular, and I'm not sure if it's my pet peeve. I cannot stand the term slap.
Slap, like slapping the bass?
Yeah. When Larry Graham created it, was thumping, and plucking.
Okay.
Milt Hinton slaps the bass. I've never seen a bass player slap.
That's true. I always wondered that too. It's like,
So where did this term come from or whatever? But it should be thumbing or thumping because I was there when it started.
All right,
thumbing
so
or plucking.
I will never say slapping the bass again. Now that you've changed my mind forever.
now all I can think of is pump up the jams. It's like when the beat is pumping and your feet are stumping. Or sorry, beat is thumping, feet are stumping. I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah. It's a good rule of thumb.
But
all
I
the
always
time.
wondered that too. It's like they're not. I always thought that was like, oh, he's slapping the bass. Like he's slapping that when he's doing it. And just like no, he's just. I remember my old bass player. He's like you play like you're twisting a doorknob. Is what he told me to do. I don't know if that's right or if he was playing that right.
Mine's more like this.
Like that.
Yeah.
I just understand. Like what? Do you pull up on the string when you hit the thumb or what?
So there's so many different things. So there's the traditional. You hit, kind of bounce it, bouncing the string, and then you use either these two fingers or the one finger to pluck the octave or whatever you're gonna pluck.
Right.
Then there's what Victor does is he go through the string and come back up. You know.
Sean does that. Our bass player Sean does that.
Okay.
Where he goes like boom and then boom.
Right.
Plucks it back up.
And then you get the boom, boom, pluck, pluck.
Okay.
You know, and play
Jeez.
arpeggiated or whatever. So those are pretty much it.
Thumping, plucking.
Thumb plucking or thumping. Thumping.
Thumping. I don't know. Thumb plucking sounds like a good band name.
Thumb plucking, yeah, right?
It's like a little bit bluegrass though. It sounds like to me.
All right, well, Al, thanks for being with us here today,
Yeah,
man.
thanks
It's
for
a
having me.
pleasure.
Thank you
Comment
for
in the
having
middle of the
Yeah,
thunderstorm and
man.
everything.
Be sure to check out Behind Bars coming out October 20th. Check out, be on the lookout for his album release sometime in November at Breezy's.
Right.
And then come see us at Monster Mash on Halloween night.
We got tickets for sale.
We have tickets for sale. Come see it. Come see us November 21st at 1904 for the dinner and a show. And then me at Jack Rabbit's on the October 13th. And also I have a collaboration out with a bunch of friends of mine. My friend Kane Daniel out in LA who's crushing it. I mean, an amazing drummer. Definitely check out everything he's got going on. JL Folks up in Nashville. Keith Harry in Asheville playing bass. And then Let's Ride Brass Band from here in Jacksonville was playing horns on that. It was a song that I wrote and arranged, and I'm happy with the way it came out. So follow me on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff. And we'll see you guys next time.
Adios,
Take care.
muchachos.